astrology, bro. Outside of her being a Virgo stellium, which I'll talk about in another video if you guys want, her transits, bro, like, of course she's acting like that. And this is gonna get worse for her once she gets off the show. She has Neptune and Saturn opposite her natal Venus right now. This transit actually peaked, meaning it's in a separating aspect right now, right before she got on the show. It can be very disorienting. It can be where something is just like not what you think it is. Something can be a little bit foggy. There's blurred lines, there's blurred boundaries. There's like a fantasy-esque sort of vision of how something is gonna go, and then reality can kind of slap you in the face and give you a sobering wake-up call. Just as much as your relationships are very tense and tested, and you need to sort of reel it in and focus on the practicality of things that are happening black and white on paper rather than like delusions, emotions. Needing to be very disciplined and responsible with your decision making, especially in love and romance, money, opportunities. So what I'm gathering is that this isn't what she signed up for, because she likely had a different vision than what is being executed. And I think that she maybe saw a different outcome in terms of how the relationship she has with the public is going outside of like the actual relationship in the villa. But because it's in a separating aspect right now, it's kind of on the back burner. It's still there, but it's something that's going to peak and return again in like highest extent as we get into fall, as we get into like very early September onward into like the holidays and stuff. So a few different things that can happen here. We only know Huda from the show, right? When you get off the show, I would assume that life hits you really hard, whether that's opportunities, whether that's brand deals, whether that's people from your hometown, whether that's your ex coming back because they just saw you on a show. Like there's likely going to be a lot of very disorienting things for her romantically, financially, in terms of like even public support. She, I know, was like a fitness trainer, is a fitness trainer. I followed her actually for like years prior to her going on Love Island, and I'm interested to see how like her audience shifts. Granted, this could even like graduate her finances to like a more profound level that's very overwhelming, and sometimes more money, more problems. Like there's a lot of different ways that this could actually physically manifest. But as far as her being on the show, she's having some coming of age transits too. It's just like what, she's 24, 25, mid-20s. 20s in general is like a hard age because you're having a lot of transits that sort of take everything that you thought about how the world works and your place in it, and it kind of changes in like in a way that's a little bit like hard for the mind to handle. That's why your 20s are meant for like experimentation, and why at 22 you're gonna be a very different person than you are at 27. And Love Island is just gonna be a very big part of that story for her. The day that I'm paying attention to is June 30th, assuming that she's still gonna be on the show. However, if she's off the show, that is a Monday. That might be the day that she gets off of it if she loses it. But that might be a day where she also like has a crash out, or even like sticks up for herself and maybe needs a sense of independence. Like we might see a little bit of a shift in her personality, or just a lot more aggression. We don't have her rising sign, so I don't have the full extent of the way that this is like showing up as T in her chart, but certainly someone who is getting like greatly affected by this and will likely have a lot of challenges as she gets off of the show. Other than that, the girl's natal chart, there's some intensity there. There's certainly some shadow aspects that I think are being completely, performed and demonstrated on the world stage, which could be very overwhelming. We're all human, but it sure says a lot about Virgo. Virgo placements are really going through it into next summer. So when you have a lot of them, like she does, the South Node's coming in to whoop your ass. And I say that as a Virgo moon, like she is not representing us well, but it's a collective struggle right now. Huda from Long Island has given me so much material to psychoanalyze in my mind. Like I really like her. She's been stimulating my brain a lot lately in terms of just like thoughts, observations. The most interesting thing about Huda is her twice saying a scapegoat. There's something so interesting about when someone like gets a phrase wrong. And I say that as someone that has gotten many phrases wrong. One thing about me is that when I was younger, I hate admitting this, but instead of saying like proposing to someone, I was typing purposing, like he's gonna purpose to her. Another thing is that I used to say mind as well instead of might as well. Had the same friend call me out on both of those. But a scapegoat is just like, I know she's used that in like an argument with an ex-boyfriend, or like telling some girl off or something. A scapegoat is so funny and so crazy. Using her as an scapegoat. Where is the goat escaping? Where is the goat escaping? And even if she did say scapegoat, that's still not the right usage of the word. Like, I think she thinks an scapegoat is like a way out, which I guess scapegoat does mean that, but like I really love watching the gears in her brain turn when she says a scapegoat, and I really, really hope she does it again. If you have any Virgo placements or you love a Virgo placement and you don't want to take accountability for how they can be on their worst days, keep scrolling because you're not going to like hearing this. Today we're going to learn from shoulda, coulda, woulda, Huda as our example. She has little Virgo stellium, okay, who cares, right? One of the most important of her placements being a Virgo Venus. Virgos are known for being very detail-oriented, meticulous, organized, structured. It can be quite robotic in the sense that they really strive for perfectionism, self-improvement. All of that can get a little bit messy when you try to put that in a human body, in a human life that cannot be perfect and robotic. And when these things are not confronted within thyself, they will bleed into, infect, and complicate your relationships. The standard and the expectation that you hold yourself to, you now project onto other people without their permission, even if they're not striving to be that ideal. So what you believe to be perfect, you will expect of others, even if they don't know that and you're wanting them to just read your mind. Now with a Virgo Venus, you're taking this planet that's very like frivolous and joyful and pleasurable and driven by things that feel good, and you're putting it in a sign that isn't too concerned about feeling good and is actually quite cold and structured. Therefore, it operates in a way that's a little bit different. It's not the worst thing in the world. Someone like Kim Kardashian, I think, is a good example of this. Someone who's just very, I need things to be this way. I will be happy if these needs are met. Things need to reach this certain sort of standard. And when this comes into your romantic relationships, people that you are interested in can often become a project, even accidentally, subconsciously, someone you want to fix, someone you want to improve. Now, this is wrong because you can't and shouldn't try to change people. To tell someone on a show called Love Island that he is not at 22 to 24 years old, a man, and then inform them on how to be the man for you when they didn't ask is like very hard to watch, especially when you can see that it's coming from a place of indeficiency and insecurities within the self. I'm not saying Jeremiah is perfect, he's not, but Virgos can have a tendency on their darkest days to turn people into these like dolls, these little caricatures that they are orchestrating as puppets, and want full control over the way that those dolls interact. Think of like literally playing with Barbies when you're younger, and like you're like, I want to be the boy, and your friend is like, I want to be the girl, and you like try to change the rules every 2 seconds to better fit the narrative you want to push. If a Virgo is decided that their reality is I am being mistreated, or I am the prize and I am not being treated as such, or I am perfect and this person has a lot of improvement to do, even if that is not true fact reality on paper, because remember, Virgo is the sister sign to Pisces, which can be quite delusional and rooted in a lot of emotion and fantasy and like blurred lines, they will stick to that story and they will make every single thing you do fit into that story as such. Virgos really boil down to a sense of control, and when they lose that control, they feel threatened, they feel scared, and therefore they have to point at everybody else because of this feeling of insecurity coming from them. And even outside of the Virgo jargon, Huda has a very clear self-concept issue, because even just everybody across the board, if you have a story that you tell yourself, everybody screws me over, everybody mistreats me, nobody knows how to, be good to me and actually stay that way. If you are very committed to that story being true in your head, you're not going to give people even the chance to show you otherwise, because it's so wrapped into your identity, your narrative. And the delusion comes in and masks itself through like miscommunication or not understanding each other, when really it's just like the information that's coming into Huda's brain and the communication that's coming from Jeremiah doesn't fit the narrative, and therefore she twists it and literally turns it into something else until he's like, what? Like, that's literally not what I said. I also think a very important moment that I don't see many people talking about other than just making fun of it is the moment that Huda was like, oh, you guys just sat at the beach? That's my dream vacation. Obviously, we all know that that was not Jeremiah's fault. Like, he didn't pick that. It's literally up to production. But there's a moment where she goes from iris to camera to then looking into the abyss. And the moment she looks into the camera is the moment she decides, how do I make this about me? How do I make myself the victim? How do I make this fit my storyline? Her dream date is likely not just sitting on the beach. Let's say it is, though. Like, any piece of information or detail or communication coming in has to commit to that storyline. And she literally heard sitting at the beach, well, that's my dream date. This makes it so much worse for me. Virgos can just very much make it impossible for somebody else to win or even to meet you at baseline, at ground level. And I say this as someone like with a Virgo moon, by the way. I'm not just coming for Virgos. Like, I understand Virgo energy very well. I'm very familiar with it. My dad's a Virgo. I have had a relationship with someone who has a Virgo Chiron. Like, I'm very, very familiar with Virgo. And I know that I have been someone before who will push and push and push and antagonize and expect someone to be perfect and then get mad at them for not being perfect and then say, oh, well, you can get back in my good graces by being perfect, and then still not letting them even attempt to reach that standard and therefore punishing them further. And guess what? When you do that, you suck the magic out of anything, and now you're both unhappy. That need for control comes from a place of like, if I don't hyper fixate and control this situation, like, I'm not going to get what I want, or I'm not going to feel safe, or I'm not going to feel loved. Therefore, I need to control this in order to not be at risk of feeling those uncomfortable feelings. And it is a very, very unfair situation to put someone in by taking what you feel emotionally and making it somebody else's fault, when all of us, unfortunately, have a certain level of responsibility to really monitor and just assess and audit our own emotions and where we participate in them, rather than immediately placing blame on any external person or variable. For example, like, someone can hurt you and they can be wrong, yes, but if someone doesn't do something wrong on paper but you feel threatened by it, it's not that person's fault. I sometimes think that someone that has Virgo placements and operates in this way, like, really a perfect world to them is someone who just listens, obeys, says yes, okay, understood, and follows orders. But even when you do that to Virgo placements that are kind of operating from this place, they're going to be like, well, I don't like that you're doing it just because I said to do it. Like, I wish you would just do it on your own. And then it's like, oh my God, you need to give people wiggle room. You need to give people room to breathe. And a lot of the issues that I think exist between Huda and Jeremiah, like, simply wouldn't exist. I think they'd have a lot more harmony and chemistry if that, like, sense of control kind of took a back seat and she was able to regulate her nervous system and just sort of experience Jeremiah as an individual and kind of see what comes out of him organically, rather than from the bat saying, do this, 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 and this, you're doing all these things wrong, fix all these things. Like, at the end of the day, she, like, doesn't even really know who this person is because she's just been trying to dictate it the entire time.